the major production companies prey on vulnerable young women. Didn't shower, didn't brush my teeth, didn't eat, didn't leave my bed. It's following me for the rest of my life. But I am not the sum of the things I've been through or the adversities I've faced.
For people that are really struggling.
It honestly feels like the last year or two. That's where my life started and where I should start, because the woman that's in front of you right now has been a work in progress and is still a work in progress. And I feel like I've been my most authentic and purest form of myself in the past year or two. Like, the closer to today we get, the more secure I feel in who I am and who that person is. But obviously there was a lot of other things that happened to get me to this point. But to answer that question, like a year or two.
Let's start at the end then, which is today.
Yeah.
Why the closer we are to today, the more authentic you feel to yourself? Why?
I'm going after the things I actually want, and I'm growing into my confidence and the self-assurance that I've gained from doing the things I love and accomplishing my goals has formed who I am. And it feels really good, and it feels very validating. And it's just, it's never clicked before. And they always say like, oh, the confidence is the key to everything. Confidence will unlock everything for you. And I never really understood that, because it's like, okay, where the fuck does the confidence come from? How do you just simply get confident? And I have grown to realize that confidence comes from just accomplishing things that you want to accomplish and being proud of yourself. And that pride makes you feel confident. Like I feel confident even when I mess up now. Whereas if I messed up 5, 6, 10 years ago, it would send me into a pit of shame, a really unhealthy, just downward spiral that would get me nowhere. Seemed unimaginable for a while, but my mental health was also not as strong as it is today. There was no fucking clue. I don't know where I see myself next week. Taking risks, honestly. Just taking a few risks here and there and seeing them play out for the better, and learning from my mistakes and learning what I want, and like job opportunities and things that didn't really align with what I thought I wanted in a year or 2 or 5 years or even 10 years, as like my confidence started to grow and I started to actually see life plans for myself. Taking risks and walking away from those risks, either having them play out for the better or learning from the mistakes and learning, oh, this didn't work. This is what I need to do next time. Oh, this didn't work. I crossed my own, I crossed a boundary of mine and now I don't feel good. Now I know this is past where I should be pushing myself. A lot of trial and error. It's not even coming to America. It's being in Lebanon. There was colorism there. I was the darkest one in my family. There was colorism at the school that I was at. I felt like a bit of an outsider because I was darker than what the beauty standard for a Lebanese girl is, which is lighter skin, olive undertones, dark hair, green eyes. Like, that's the epitome of a beautiful woman in Lebanon. And then I moved to America, and that just it went to the extreme side of that. I was definitely one of the darkest kids. I was bullied for being Middle Eastern. It was around the time of 9/11. That was pretty difficult, especially since it was in Washington, D.C., and Washington, D.C. was heavily impacted by 9/11. The Pentagon was hit. New York is not that far from us. It's about 4 hours. Like, so many people in my school either had family and parents that worked at the Pentagon. It was a lot of bullying that then turned into internalized racism. And all I wanted to do from then forward, like you said, you wanted to relax your hair. You wanted to, you wanted to assimilate and fit in. I also wanted the same thing. And I just held that in. I think, yeah, I've always been an introvert and very aware of what I was going through, and angsty, and even like going into my teen years, I've always been aware of the fact that what I was feeling is shame, or what I was feeling is I'm not feeling like I'm enough. I feel like I've always been aware of that feeling. There was also confusion with it, but I think self-awareness has been prevalent the whole time. I was very hard on myself. I was very angry at myself for not fitting in and for not being a certain way. And and me not liking the reflection in the mirror obviously affected my confidence, my self-esteem, everything. So in turn, I also didn't like the choices that I was making, which made me not only hate the reflection, but hate the person that I was with at the end of the day.
The choices you're making.
Yeah. I think insecurity leads you to do things for validation that you otherwise wouldn't if you were secure in yourself, or if you respected yourself, or if you loved yourself.
Like relationship choices,
lifestyle choices, anything.
Like for you,
so much. It's such a broad spectrum, because you can either turn into a people pleaser or you can turn into an insufferable. A people pleaser on the surface level, everyone loves a people pleaser. They want to please everybody. But the downside of a people pleaser is they want to please everybody. They have no boundaries with themselves or with other people. They don't respect their own boundaries. They don't respect others' boundaries. If they're people-pleasing person A and what person B wants goes against what person A wants, they will find a way to please both of them. So a people pleaser also turns into someone who lies, someone who deceives, someone who is a habitual boundary crosser with themselves and with other people. Like there's a spectrum to it. I would say I was definitely a people pleaser. I also sought validation from people who's, looking back on it now, whose opinion I probably shouldn't have respected back then, let alone today. So that was a downside. Made a lot of choices that I can't take back. Porn being one of the biggest ones, but I feel like that wasn't even the first one. The first one was getting into a relationship that I never should have been in with someone who was extremely abusive, extremely dangerous, in the sense that looking back on it and having the self-awareness and being able to call it what it was is grooming. It was just a relationship that I feel like a lot of girls get into when they're in their late teens. Relationship started when I was 16.
Okay.
Then went until I was about 20.
And
age difference had a play in that dynamic. My low self-esteem had a play in that dynamic. Everything was just kind of like, I wouldn't have known what happened in a week's time. It was, I mean, I got talked into eloping to Las Vegas 4 days after my 18th birthday. So if you asked me where I see myself in 5 years, I don't know. I would have looked at you with doe eyes and said, I don't know. And then looked over at him. Where do you see me in 5 years? Like, I didn't have a sense of self, so I attached myself to someone who was more than happy to abuse that, and someone who could see that and see someone easily manipulatable.
Yeah.
But at the same time, eager to please. So yeah, it was just the perfect storm.
Perfect storm.
Yeah. There was no encouragement. There was no pushing towards anything. It was an extremely unhealthy relationship. And I even feel weird calling it a relationship, because the dynamic was not one of a relationship. It was more one of someone who saw a toy to play with. They were there. The industry they were in is probably not the one that you're thinking of. They were in the army. So it wasn't even, it had nothing to do with the porn industry, but it also had everything to do with it. They were the ones who kind of put that whole world in front of me and encouraged it, and started off as just online. But then eventually, yeah, when I was asked to I was given a business card and told to think about it. I went home, I laughed it off, and the consensus was, you should do it. I think it would be great. That's what I mean. Also unhealthy, had mental health issues that I don't know if they've ever addressed, but it's a sickness, and they were not the right. What the whole point of this is, when your relationship with yourself isn't right, you are not going to find the right person. You're not going to choose the right person. You're not going to choose someone who wants the best for you or will bring the best out of you, because you don't want that for yourself. I think you need to forgive yourself for, if someone has crossed your boundary, you need to forgive yourself for letting that happen, for giving them a position in your life to hurt you like that. Me telling you that wasn't to explain or shift blame. It was to give context as to where I was mentally. Yeah, but it's not, I don't take offense to, I did a while ago, but I don't take offense to it, or I don't feel like my name's actually Sarah. It's either or. Yeah. Didn't really see, even then I didn't see like a future doing anything. I just thought, I really enjoy studying history. Felt like watching a movie. Like I'm enamored with, like it's my favorite subject. It felt like the easiest thing. The second easiest thing is like psychology.
Oh, I love psychology.
Yeah, exactly. They're the interesting ones. They're the juicy majors. I didn't see myself doing anything other than whatever I had going on the next week. And then I guess the furthest I thought ahead was, I guess I'll work in archives or work in a museum or something. I didn't have a plan like, oh, I want to be a teacher or something. My weight now still fluctuates. And the more that I've worked on myself in therapy, the less that bothers me and affects my relationship with myself. So even in the months where I feel like I do not look like myself, I don't feel like myself, I've let myself go a little bit, it doesn't affect me the way it used to 10 years ago. I don't fall, I don't let it get to me as much anymore. But it did for a very long time, because it was, I weighed like 60 pounds more than this, which is a lot. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't eating well. I wasn't exercising well. I had unhealthy habits. I was young. The biggest role, 2016.
Yeah.
The biggest role. I'm still in therapy. I don't see myself ever stopping, really. I cycle out therapists. It's like, yeah, I love it. I love feeling like, okay, I'm ready for a fresh start. I'm ready for someone new. I'm ready for a new perspective. It's a way to keep me grounded. Every week I have to sit down and analyze myself, my thoughts, my past. Like, I have to dig down and actually come face to face with the decisions I've made, my ways of thinking, my relationship with myself. Like, there's accountability with therapy, and I think that's the biggest impact. I guess accountability. Yeah, that's a loaded question, because I'm so grateful for all of the information I've learned about myself, like the dots I've been able to connect, like how being triggered by something a friend of mine says is actually related to the way that I felt ostracized on the playground when no one wanted to play with me. And like one little thing, even though they didn't mean it that way or even had any malicious intent behind it, has then taken me back to that 12-year-old girl who just feels so alone and doesn't know what she did wrong and just wants to people please. And I think the best part of therapy is within a split. Disney Channel when we were growing up, and she has these visions. She's a psychic, and she just like stares off into space, and then she zooms out, and then she zooms back in, and no time has gone, but she saw maybe a 30-minute vision play out. But she comes back and it's been like a split second. And that's what therapy feels like. It takes me back and I analyze that moment and I understand that moment is not this moment. And my friend cares about me, and she's not actually trying to make me feel like no one wants to play with me on the playground just because she said you can come if you want, and not I want you to come. You know what I mean? I think that's the magic behind therapy. It gives you time traveling superpowers.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I spent so much time wondering, why did I do this? This is not me. I was in it for such a short amount of time. And the entire time I was doing it, I was also asking myself every day, why am I doing this? What is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? That's like the number one question. And I know what was wrong with me. I had low self-esteem. I had no boundaries with myself. I didn't respect myself. I didn't like myself. So many things were wrong with me. And all of these things anyone can work on. It's hard. It is hard though. It's hard. Once you become self-aware, there's no going back. I think I cried more in the first 2 years of being in therapy than I ever did going through anything I did in my life, in my adolescence, in my early teens, and anything. It's hard. It's hard. That self-awareness is like, I mean, no. And especially once you start realizing things about people in your life that you've kind of put rose-colored glasses on for all your life, to make up excuses or to kind of change the situation in your head so that you don't actually have to face what the reality was, or the fact that, wow, this is actually a really situation. This person that I love, who's supposed to support me, who's supposed to be there for me, was actually not that great in hindsight, not even in hindsight, in 2020 sight, in actual vision. Yes, I was living in an efficiency. An efficiency is not even a studio. It's where this rug cuts off to that wall. That is wider than what it was, but definitely the length. My toilet, my bathroom sink was also my kitchen sink. There was no stove. There was a broken window that I had tape over, and there was only one window. It's a room. I think they're popular in South Florida, or like, I don't think you have them here because I don't think they're legal to like sell as living spaces. Very lonely, extremely lonely. But at that point in my life, loneliness was better than what I was doing before. And that, I think, was the start of the tiniest bit of confidence. That gave me the confidence to take the risk of moving to Austin and starting a new life. And I was so lonely. I was so broke. I was so lost. I was so confused. But all I was completely 100% sure of was, I don't want to do porn. I've never wanted to do porn. I'm never going to go back to that. And standing firm on my ground in my morals, in my boundaries, in just everything, that was like the tiniest glimmer of confidence starting to grow. Standing firm in my boundaries, even if I didn't know that was a boundary. I couldn't pinpoint it. I couldn't call it that. I didn't know what it was. I didn't have the verbiage or the knowledge or the self-awareness to call it what it was. But that was how it started. I would not, if I hadn't moved to Austin, I wouldn't have started therapy. I wouldn't have, that was the domino effect of, in a positive way in my life. Mm-hmm. It could have gone a completely other way, and it does for so many people. And I'm so grateful that I was able to get out. I had nothing to lose. And I think that I also knew I need to get the fuck out of Miami. I was in Miami at the time, and it was where everything happened. And I just did not want to be there anymore. It felt daunting. It felt like walls closing in on me everywhere I went. It was the day I met my best friend on Twitter. I didn't meet her that day on Twitter. Her and I had been following each other for a while. She posts memes. I like them, vice versa. Her and I were talking about something. Oh, she said, I'm looking for a roommate. I'm asking around the office for a roommate. And I said, what if I move to Austin? I don't want to live in Miami anymore. And then I started looking up, how do you move states? Like, what does it take? What does it require? What paperwork do I need for my dogs? Like, all of that stuff. And then within a month, I was packed up and moved. I think it was how overwhelming everything became so fast.
Okay.
Like that was the reality check. It was like, it was like a light, like when they turn the lights on at the club at 4 a.m, like, whoa,
okay.
the floors are sticky and nothing looks the same. This is not what I signed up for. It's not what I expected. I fucked up. Yeah, for a very short period of time, like 6 months.
Tell me all about that.
Nothing really much to say. It was for an insurance defense firm. It was pretty boring, and it was very much like corporate. The insurance company that they represented was Geico. So it was like a very boring thing. And it was just paper pushing. It was really weird to work there, especially since that was my first job where I did it. I did the application and I went into it thinking, this is the shift. This is me putting Mia Khalifa behind me. And this is me like trying to be a real human. Did not work. Everyone in the office recognized me. It was a very uncomfortable work environment, not because anyone was overtly inappropriate. It was just simply being in an office, knowing anyone who walked through did a double take and is like, are you? So that was uncomfortable. And then after that, I worked at a construction company, just doing bookkeeping and office work. And same thing, I would have to go on a job site, and the owner of the company just made it so I can't go on job sites. It was a distraction. It was not a good idea. It was, people would be that, in that situation, people would be inappropriate sometimes. But yeah, I started to feel like a burden in the offices where I was. And I hated that feeling. And I was actually sitting at that construction job in the office when I was talking to Rachel in the DMs, like, I'm going to move to Austin. Let's do it.
Anxiety.
Yeah.
Has that been a big part of your life, for much of your life?
Yes, very much so. And I think that has been prevalent from the very beginning.
The very beginning, as in since you were a kid or a teenager? Or...
Yeah, probably even in utero. I mean, my parents grew up in the Civil War in Lebanon. And I lived through a lot of conflict in Lebanon, whether it be civil or the surrounding countries or whatever. But we left for a reason, and it's because it was dangerous. So I think I've always had that. Like, I jump when I hear a noise. I jump when someone who's been in the room for 4 hours with me speaks, even though they haven't because they haven't spoken in 10 minutes. Like, I get scared. Like, I'm a jumpy person, probably because of that. Oh yeah. It was when it was post everything, but it was in the midst of the porn company going after me publicly and re-releasing things and digging up footage that was corrupted in 2012, in 2013, whenever it was shot, and releasing it like it was new, and that coming back into the news cycle, and them just being extremely abusive and exerting and proving that they still have control over me because I signed a contract that says in perpetuity on it. I was living in LA. Yeah. I was living in LA. I was doing my own thing. I was starting to figure out what it was I wanted to do and where I want. Like things were really good that year. It was the year I had that little cameo in that incredible show Rami. That was a huge moment for me, and I'm so grateful for that moment. And I'm so upset that that moment was kind of overshadowed by all of the negativity that came from the porn company in the subsequent months.
The porn company coming after you and attacking you, not something you would expect from a company.
$1 billion company at that. Yeah, it goes to show you how petty and personal it is, because the people who are behind it aren't exactly the CEOs. It's the board pseudo producers who don't like that I'm out here talking about my experience. It's very much individuals, not the company, but these individuals do have the power to speak on the company's behalf.
What are they threatened by?
I think they're threatened by, like you said earlier, most people in my position aren't in my position because this is the outcome that the girls want who enter the industry. Most of them who enter the commercial porn industry, or the mainstream porn industry. They want the fame, they want the infamy, they want all of that. And I think for the first time, these individuals are experiencing someone who is fully aware of what was happening and is fully aware of what is and isn't ethical, and has the platform and the resources to speak on all of those things.
What is your opinion of the industry now?
I have a very unfavorable opinion on it, but I do think that there are ethical and unethical ways that you can support sex workers and consume porn. As someone who is a creator, or as someone who is simply a consumer, there are ethical ways to do it. Granted, any company has its downsides. Like even OnlyFans has trouble policing and regulating the people who are on their site, and every company has its downsides, but I would say that the major production porn companies are all predatory and abusive and unethical and prey on vulnerable young women. And even me saying this, I already know that some of the responses back are going to be from women in the industry that say, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's great. It's fantastic. Everyone is so nice. I love this company. I love all of this. And to be honest with you, I think that rhetoric is grooming. I think that if you're going to enter the industry and you're going to be an advocate for it, it has to come with a caveat. And that caveat needs to be, you shouldn't enter the industry unless you've already kind of been in the industry. It shouldn't be a first option for you. Like that shouldn't be something that you simply go into because you like it. Think about it more. Wait on it more. The age to go into the industry should not be 18. You're putting contracts in front of 18-year-old girls that have the words in perpetuity on them. Do you know how dangerous and predatory that is? These are 3, 4, 5-page contracts. Legal verb, it's jargon. It's literally another language.
Yeah.
I don't think that's ever going to be possible unless the laws change around around the rights that they have. It's just those 2 words, in perpetuity. It's
perpetuity. What vicious words.
Yeah, not forever, not in your lifetime, not in our lifetime, in perpetuity of all lifetimes in all existence. Who needs that much control over a young woman's body? But it's a very expensive lawsuit against a $1 billion corporation. It's a conglomerate. They also own Bang Bros isn't the only company under that umbrella. It's a very wide reach. Showered, didn't brush my teeth, didn't eat, didn't leave my bed, was crying all the time. Anytime I would open my phone, I felt like a prisoner in my own body and in the world, more so, not just in my own body, because I couldn't scream loud enough. There's nothing I could do to make it go away or to make them stop. Honestly, the worst part about it was I knew that if I went on and actually spoke about how much it impacted me, that's what they would want. That's exactly what they would want. They were very annoyed that I started naming them by name, and that's when everything started. These individuals value their privacy more than anything in the world, and it's because of all of the unethical and immoral things that they've done throughout their careers in this industry. So they all go by aliases too. Being called out by their legal government names was not something they took kindly to, and that is why they chose to release the video that the footage was corrupted of 10 years ago. I'm really funny. Trauma makes you funny. Builds character. No, of course there's a silver lining. I'm sitting in front of you today happier than I've ever been. I am not the sum of the things I've been through or the adversities I've faced. I'm not. The silver lining is it fucking happened. It's over with. It's not over with, actually. It's following me for the rest of my life. But I am no longer in the mental space that I was back then. So it's over with for me.
And you get to make your silver lining.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like you've done, is you've made a silver lining. Because there's clearly, you could have gone several ways.
Yes, that's true.
What are the ways you could have gone?
I was acting on instinct. There wasn't a time when I sat down and thought, what do I want with my life? I needed a job, so I acted on instinct. I applied to things that I felt like I could do. I'm good at paperwork. I'm good at just administrative things. I like being left alone. So I didn't want a job where I was working with I was always acting on instinct. There was never really a plan. What felt right? It felt right in the moment to get an office job. It felt right in the moment to leave that one and go to another one. It felt right in the moment to leave everything and move to Austin. It felt right in the moment in Austin to, well, actually, that was the first time in my life where I started forming a core group of friends and people who are still in my life to this day. And they were the ones who not convinced me, but kind of encouraged me to go to therapy.
You'll know if you've listened to the last few episodes of this podcast, we're now sponsored by the incredible Whoop. And if you're anything like me and juggling a fair few things every day, Whoop could be a real game changer in your life. When I was a young entrepreneur, I liked to, talk a little bit too much about how many hours that I worked, how many emails I'd sent, and all of those kinds of things. But I didn't have a second thought on how all of that work and that workaholism was impacting my stress levels, my productivity, my sleep, my overall health, which is why I think the new stress monitoring feature on my Whoop is so important. Whoop is this small device on my wrist that I wear during the podcast. It's a wearable health and fitness coach and helps you to sleep better, to train harder, live healthier, and now manage your stress. One of the ways that it does this is with scientifically backed breathing exercises developed with leading neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman. If you're someone who's struggling to manage and overcome stress, I'd highly recommend you check out Whoop. It's been a genuine game changer for me. Go to join.whoop.com/CEO to get a free month's Whoop membership on me and let me know how you get on.
I'm in an interesting phase at the moment in my fitness and health journey because I'm training for Soccer Aid, which takes place in June at Old Trafford. I've been training a lot differently, but regardless of how I train, regardless of whether I'm doing strength training or cardiovascular training, which is predominantly what I'm doing now, I need this, which is Huel's Nutritionally Complete Protein product. The crazy thing about this, which I almost find hard to achieve, is that it's 20 grams of protein. You get 26 vitamins and minerals, and it's only roughly about 100 calories, 105 calories. And it tastes like a dream. The salted caramel one is my favorite. I've got the second favorite option of mine in front of me, which is vanilla fudge. Both of them taste amazing. A little bit of ice in it. It tastes like a fantastic, healthy milkshake. Give it a try. If you haven't already, this is actually, next to RTD, this is my favorite product from Huel. It's the product that I use the most from Huel. Try it. Love it. #1 protein powder. Depression, another word. Different to anxiety in many respects.
Yeah.
People often characterize it with like thoughts of the past, and they think of anxiety as worries of the future. Depression's another word that I read a few times throughout your story. Again, is that something that's kind of been with you throughout life, or was that post moving to Miami?
It was really that 2019, 2020.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. I went on Lexapro. That was when, maybe I was depressed, but it was never diagnosed. I had 2 therapy sessions a week and a psychiatrist, and I was on Lexapro. I was on propranolol. I was on beta blockers, everything for anxiety, depression, all of that. All of that was in 2019, 2020. When everything started to kind of get rehashed, and I felt like I'm very, very grateful to be out of the depths of my depression. But something that does keep me up at night, anxiety-wise, is where things are headed with AI and deep fakes and things like that. Because that feeling of being violated all over again and having no control, like it's like trying to run in a dream. As hard as you try, it's impossible, and it's a very daunting feeling, and you feel claustrophobic, and you feel like you're trying to breathe underwater, and all of these really, really awful things that are out of your control. That's what that feels like. And I try not to think about it for too long, but
The AI stuff feels like that and the deepfake stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
Were people worried about you 2019? Did you have people around you that were worried about you at that point?
I did. I'm very grateful I did.
Because I'm trying to think of this step people take when they go and have therapy, or they go to the doctor and say, listen, something's wrong with me. You're at home, this stuff's happening online, this porn company are targeting you. What was the catalyst in that moment to make you go, do you know what, I need to go get help?
Oh, I was still in therapy. Yeah. And my therapist said, you need a psychiatrist.
Really?
Yeah. He said, like, you need a psychiatrist. I can't prescribe you antidepressants. You need a psychiatrist. Here's some recommendations.
Again, so what's life like? I joined a TV show. So things changed for me. You know, people start stopping you in the street and coming up to you in the gym and stuff. And, you know, it comes with the territory of what I did. I was well aware of what I was getting into. Also, I joined the TV show when I was like 28, 29. So you kind of like, you're probably a bit more prepared mentally for things, and you understand the world a bit better, and you're not trying to impress people as much as I was when I was younger. But it was still an adjustment, to say the least. What was life like for you, that post-Miami period? You're now moving on with your life. You're trying to, you know, this porn company come for you. What is life like day to day, you know, when you go to the coffee shop?
I'm kind of glad you asked that, because it's a huge contrast to what it is now. Even though it's kind of still the same, I would get recognized and I would get come up to, and I would get asked to like take a photo with someone all the time. But my reaction to it is completely different than it is now. I would want to crawl into a hole and hide away and be ashamed. I was so embarrassed. I felt like a warm feeling in my stomach, like I had just been punched, or like I just found out I was being cheated on or something. Like it's just a very painful, visceral reaction to be recognized and to know what you're being recognized for. And it wasn't until I started to accomplish other things, and I started to be proud of things that I've done, and things that I've kind of shifted and diverted into in my career. So those first few months to a year in Austin, I had a lot of social anxiety, and I didn't go out much because I didn't want to be recognized. I felt like I just didn't want to be recognized. I didn't want to be looked at. I didn't want to be perceived. I didn't want to leave my house. None of that. But
is that a form of like self-hatred? Because you're like,
because it was more so the people who were coming up to me, college guys, like men, you know. It just made me uncomfortable, because I knew why they knew me, and it wasn't until I started accomplishing things that I was actually proud of that changed. I didn't feel that same like gut-wrenching, visceral feeling of shame when I would hear the name Mia or get called in the street or anything like that. Like the more I accomplished, the more proud I was of what I've built and what I've changed and all of these things that I've done, the more comfortable I got with being recognized, because inherently people were recognizing me for other things. Women started to recognize me. Everything kind of shifted. The more that I do and continue to do, the more that changes. Like I rarely get I get come up to more by women now than by men. And I love that. Done it without shout out to Lexapro, without the Lexapro, without my support system, without my job, without people in my job encouraging me to pursue what I want to do and to not let fear of having something taken away from me or having something.
You had that fear of having it taken away from you?
Yeah, of course. They're constantly threatening me, even using the name Mia Khalifa.
They're threatening you using the name Mia Khalifa?
They think they have ownership of it.
Okay.
Which they do not. It's my dog's name. And they tried to convince me not to use Khalifa because they said, no one's going to know how to spell it. But yeah, I'm constantly in fear of, they're $1 billion corporation.
Yeah.
The amount of lawsuits that they field on a daily basis. They're being sued right now by a company that does MLB trading cards because they're trying to do trading cards of actresses.
You're married around that time, right? 2019?
Yeah.
A lot of what I read said that marriage had fallen apart because the attention you were getting was difficult for your partner.
I don't know about that. He's also
Famous?
no. Well, he's a very popular chef.
Okay.
But no, that was more of irreconcilable differences. No, I'm just kidding. It was a lot. We were in therapy for a year.
Okay.
An entire year. We tried. We were separated for 3 months. I lived at an Airbnb. I moved out of the house. Like we tried. It was more so, it just very much came down to, we got married too early. We got married too soon before we actually knew each other. We got married in the honeymoon phase, and we were just very different. The answer is 2-car garage, decent backyard, 3 very successful, still operating companies that I'm very heavily involved in still. I don't plan on retiring anytime soon. And hopefully a kid on the way. Very, but I'm also not trying. I've been a serial monogamist for a while. I got out of a long-ish term relationship a few months ago. But yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult, but I also haven't tried. But I don't know what I'm expecting. I haven't gone into the dating world in maybe 6 years. I've been in long-term relationships.
What would make a great partner for Sarah? What would they have to have? What would be the jigsaw shape?
Emotional intelligence and a good relationship with their therapist and with therapy in general. Someone who's constantly working on themselves and is self-aware and understands the ebbs and flows of life and emotions, and how it's not always going to be even keel, how it'll oscillate, but oscillate doesn't necessarily mean go from good to toxic. It means go from good to needing a little more support than you normally have.
Man.
To launch it, it's called Shaitan. The inspiration is every woman who I've ever admired, every Arab girl who chooses yellow gold over white gold, just women in general, huge inspiration behind it. It's body jewelry for the most part, but it's also lifestyle. It will launch imminently, and yeah.
Why did you choose jewelry?
Because I love it. I was custom making the things that I wanted that I couldn't find easily. Hand lariats and foot lariats and belly chains and bra chains and like all of this stuff was extremely hard to find. So I was custom making it and paying a lot for it. So I'm very excited to put out something that is extremely delicate and precious and beautiful, but also affordable. I would say 70% alone time.
Interesting.
20% time surrounded by people who energize and recharge me. And 10% just 10% fuck it. 10% just, if something feels right, do it. Follow your instinct. But like, I'm kind of scared of my instinct a little too sometimes, even though, yeah, 10% just listen to your Rihanna.
Rihanna. No, really, that came from Rihanna.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. She has a whole album called Unapologetic. And that is what I base my personality off of.
Why?
What do you mean why?
Why did you choose to bake? There's so many different albums Rihanna's made.
That's the one that just exudes. That's the one that kind of, that was her shift also. That was her moment of, now I know who I am and I'm unapologetic about it. It might not be the bubblegum pop girl you thought I was or wanted me to be. This is who I am, and this is the person who's not going anywhere. Quiet probably, or too loud just because insecurity screams. Not someone, well, actually, no, that is someone who I would want to be around because I feel empathy for her. And I forgive her. Have a huge impact, just psychologically. I think those are very formative years.